Hi, welcome to our fishbowl discussion. We are group 2, and we've had some technical difficulties, but we're really excited to have you all join us. So first, we're going to introduce ourselves. I am Toya.
I'm Will.
I'm Ruby.
I'm Brennan.
All right, so you've met everyone, and now we are going to get started. Our question is, how can I positively influence my community of practice through participation in broader configurations of networks? So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to share some quotes with you and talk about how that resonates with us and connects to our problem of practice. And Will's going to go ahead and get us started first.
All right. Hi, everybody. Again, so my quote is from page 234. In the process of learning, a community must have access to other practices. And as part of a leadership challenge to sort of meet this, I kind of stretched it to the extreme and reached out to an economist who's written about my problem of practice, the retention of teachers. And I feel like having that, having some input from outside of my community of practice or into another community of practice will be helpful in moving forward, addressing my problem of practice. So sometimes as you move through communities of practice, I feel like we sometimes develop sort of a professional tunnel vision. And, you know, we're in our community of practice and we're not looking at what outside that might influence our problems of practice and the problems we face in our communities. We forget that they may extend beyond our community, and outside expertise might also be applied within our community. I can bring in outside voices for other areas of expertise and add to the community discourse in mine. So, thank you.
Okay, next up is Ruby.
Hello again. My quote was also from page 234. Every practice is hostage to its own past and its own locality. So a couple of the things I did for the LDC was reaching out to other individuals I know that work at other schools, whether it was an elementary, a public school, a charter school, a couple of private schools, trying to see if they're seeing the same concerns that I am. Because obviously, and even touching base with like our first year teachers that are new to our school to see if they're still seeing some of those concerns that kind of brought about my problem of practice. And so a lot of similar concerns that I'm seeing. I even reached out to a couple of individuals that I know work in other mental health fields because my question was just kind of like satisfaction with life for them. Obviously not a focus on school satisfaction, but even like motivation, that blaming others instead of themselves. So again, that focus on locus of control. And those are things that you're seeing. And then having that conversation with them, like, what are some things that you guys are doing to kind of move people into a new frame of thought, a new frame of mind, keeping them positive, keeping them focused. Because as the quote said, if we kind of just stay where we're at and we just kind of look at where we're at, we're kind of all doomed to repeat the same mistakes, right? So even just how we're working through this action research project as a collective whole, we're trying to move past what we've always done because that's the way we've always done it. And so really taking ourselves out of that hostage situation and moving into a new practice and looking at the way other people have done things and hoping to support what we're trying to do within our own problems of practice, and specifically at my school working with my students. So that quote really resonated with me.
Thanks, Ruby. Okay, let's move on and have Brennan share his quote and his insight.
Hello, everyone. Brennan here, speaking to you all. And for my quote, I chose to quite a rather lengthy quote on page 256. And in it, Wenger states that carefully managing boundaries by fostering boundary encounters helps prevent the deepening of communities from evolving into stale inbreeding or a source of excessive fragmentation. Instead, it allows that deepening to create new opportunities for learning. And with this quote, I think Wenger wants to point our attention towards the insights and the amount of learning that can take place, not from traditional training resources and external sources, but from interdepartmental conversations, from talking with individuals who have some sort of stake or are beneficiaries from our practices or from our work, but that work in our outside office. And in regards to my problem of practice, I think this resonates very loudly because the essence of my innovation is to connect all the educators and trainers on our installation with one another, so that we can communicate about the various systems in which we're working on, training strategies, instructional course design, all types of different discussions on training and education from various individuals with varying responsibilities, and realizing that our learning and our development is not within our little box. It actually occurs from meaningful conversation with colleagues and peers.
Great. Good ideas. Okay, next up, that's you, Randy.
Awesome. Thanks, Toya. So hi, everyone. My name is Randy, and the quote that I chose was from page 245, and it's also a long one. It's actually a few sentences, but it's institution and practice cannot merge because they are different entities. The relation between them is not one of congruence, but one of negotiated alignment, and the alignment is never secured. It must constantly be negotiated anew because it is by being of different natures that they complement each other as sources of structure. And so that was really important to me, and I wanted to kind of get all of that because it really encapsulates my problem of practice and kind of the leadership challenge that I have. So working in a private public partnership, we're really working with these different stakeholders and different groups with competing priorities. And so in order for my organization to run efficiently and effectively, there has to be an alignment with the corporate partner, with the college institution, and also with within the district. And so one of the things that's important and something that I've been focusing on in my LDC is how do I kind of streamline all of these things and processes for my team, especially in a startup environment where you're kind of building the plane while you're flying it, and how do you not really stress people out, by throwing all of these things on their plate at one time. And so in order to do that, it's really kind of top down. How do we have all of the stakeholders in the same room at the same time and really kind of working as a conglomerate to kind of roll out these processes for the team? So Wenger really kind of, I think that quote kind of encapsulates what I'm trying to do, and the fact that when you are working in with multiple stakeholders and with different institutions, it's important to remember that we all have to look at what the desired outcome is and kind of work on the steps and processes to kind of execute those, because it really does affect the team and the people that are going to execute those processes.
Awesome, thank you. I love the statement of building the plane while you're flying it, and my quote actually takes that and goes in the complete opposite direction. So my quote comes from page 276, and it goes as follows. An important function of educational design is thus to maximize rather than avoid interactions among generations in ways that interlock their stakes in histories of practice. So rather than building the plane while we're flying it, my quote's talking about taking what's already there and embracing it and respecting it and giving it its due justice. And this also connects really well with, Will, what you talked about with having that tunnel vision. And so this quote is really just saying two things. So literally, we should embrace these other generations that we're working with. We should seek to understand them, connect to them, embrace their uniqueness. And at the same time, it's also a metaphor for that we should embrace all these other layers that are involved in our communities of practice, and specifically with regards to this question, embracing all these other broader configurations and all these other networks and looking at what they bring to the table that may not be exactly what we bring to the table from, if we said as a metaphor, our generation. So with that, does anyone have anything else they want to add or contribute, or any connections you want to make?
I really like the idea, just that concept of meaningful relationships that Brennan mentioned, because I think a lot of times people say that we are collaborating, that we are looking, you know, at outside individuals, that we've done our research, but really they've kind of just looked at it in a way to make it work for them. Or they're like, yeah, well, that worked for them, but that's not for us. And so really having that meaningful relationship and that meaningful connection about those interactions and those connections, and kind of not just doing the, well, we did that, but now we're going to do this.
I agree, totally agree. I think we can all make a personal connection to a situation where that actually was alive and well for each of us. All right, anyone else have any other comments or connections they want to make?
Well, similar to Ruby, I was going to mention that too when Brennan talked about bringing everyone together, because I think, you know, a lot of times we're intentional about what our outcomes are, but not intentional about being collaborative. So just thinking about intentionality behind it, and that it resonated kind of with what I'm trying to do too, with working with all these different stakeholders, and everybody's trying to do what they need to do. How do we kind of work together and be intentional in how we execute?
Excellent. So in summary, we have talked about influencing our own communities of practice through broadening our configurations with other networks, and we've given you some great quotes that you can use in your leadership challenge summary this week. And so on behalf of Group 2, we'd like to thank all of you for joining us, and we wish you the best in all of your assignments this week. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.